Good afternoon, everyone. On the FAA bill, we had a report from Senator Cruz at lunch, and he's continuing to work on an amendment process. We'll absolutely have to do something by the end of the week, and exactly how that plays out, I couldn't tell you right now, but this is a bill we need to pass and pass on time. Secondly, I had a chance to talk to the Defense Minister of Israel yesterday and Jake Sullivan this morning, and I continue to express my concern to the administration that the delay of shipment of weapons to Israel is just another way of trying to tell an ally how to conduct the war. This is obviously an extremely challenging situation, but I think the last thing we ought to be doing is telling our Democratic allies you ought to have an election or you ought not to conduct this war in a certain way.
Well, and to the leader's point, just in the last week, folks in Israel and around the world observed Holocaust Remembrance Day, in which we make a clear pledge that this will never happen again. And it seems like never again is right now. It's only been 7 months since Hamas attacked Israel, and what was the worst attack on Israel literally since the Holocaust. And even to this day, Hamas still has 128 hostages, about a quarter of whom are presumed to be dead. They continue to attack Israel. There have been direct attacks by Iran against Israel, and the United States needs to stand shoulder to shoulder with our ally Israel, which is why it's particularly disturbing that the Biden administration is withholding military aid from Israel. And we heard just this morning in testimony, I think Senator Capito was there. Senator Moran asked a question in which the Defense Secretary confirmed that they are withholding important military aid from Israel. Of course, that at a time after which we just passed $14.1 billion in assistance designed to go to support our ally Israel. So it is really important for the Biden administration to get this right and to stand with Israel. Not doing so not only undermines the security of Israel, but it also draws into question our reliability as an ally. And so I hope the administration will see their way to ensure that the assistance that this Congress has supported and advocated for is actually delivered, and that the people of Israel are able to finish the job and to make sure that Hamas is never in a position again to attack Israel or its people, or for that matter, anybody else in the neighborhood.
Well, Joe Biden has now had his 200th act of attacking American energy and American energy workers. Time and time again, this president has declared war and is conducting a war against American energy producers, is making it more expensive and harder to produce energy at home in America. And the American people are paying the painful price of this climate obsession. They pay every time they go to fill up with gas. They pay every time they pay their electric bill, and they feel the pain even at the grocery store. So this energy insanity began on Joe Biden's first day in the White House when he killed the Keystone XL pipeline. But it continues even to today, as he said of the National Petroleum Reserve that it can't be used for petroleum. That's the purpose it's there. This president has now for 3 years continued to prioritize his climate agenda over the needs of the American people. And he refuses to understand that we can protect the environment without punishing the economy. Every one of these 200 actions has hurt our economy, but it's helped Iran, Russia, and China. Reliable, affordable energy is the key to a healthy, growing economy. In my home state of Wyoming, we are the energy breadbasket of the country. This administration is lawlessly blocking our use of government lands to produce American energy. This administration is is focusing so hard on killing the production of American energy that they're choking off the lifeblood of our communities. These are great jobs. The tax dollars that come in as a result of these energy jobs, they help pay nurses to keep our hospitals open. They pay teachers to keep our public schools open. The climate zealots don't seem to care at all about any of those things. Republicans know what we need to do. We need to cut all this red tape coming out of Washington and unleash American energy.
I echo the sentiments of my colleagues when it comes to Israel, and I hope to be speaking on that tomorrow at a press conference with Lindsey Graham and other colleagues. But today what I'd like to do is raise an entirely different issue. What we have seen is a bunch of drunken debauchery, some creepy conversations, and all around inappropriate behavior. And I know it sounds like I'm talking about a frat house, but it's the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. Yes, the FDIC. There is a new report that is out. It is 234 pages, and it revealed that the rot runs a lot deeper than I even initially thought. Now, this culture has been driven from the top down, from Chairman Gruenberg on down through various levels in the FDIC. And what I know, is that the chairman must resign. And he needs to face real consequences, folks, not just a little slap on the hand, but he needs to go. So what am I recommending? I'm recommending that President Biden order the DOJ to investigate from the top to the bottom, or else he is also complicit in subjecting the women at FDIC to more discrimination, more sexual assaults, more inappropriate behaviors coming from their superiors. Everyone who committed crimes must be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. So no amount of mops could ever clean up this mess that's going on at the FDIC. And it really is time to close the door on this chapter of abuse. And it starts with Gruenberg himself. So let's throw away Gruenberg's leadership keys and let's permanently change the locks at the FDIC.
Well, this is the season, the appropriations hearing seasons, where we get leaders of the president's cabinet to come in and talk to us about their budget, the president's budget. So tomorrow we are going to have Julie Su, who is the acting Secretary of Labor, come before my subcommittee on appropriations. She has still yet to be confirmed because she doesn't have the votes to be confirmed. However, she's still in a position to make the decisions that are impacting businesses, both large and small, employers and employees all across this country. And here's an example. The Wage and Hour Division earlier this year changed their rules governing who qualifies as an independent contractor. You might think, well, what does that really have to do with anybody? Millions of Americans have some sort of flexibility built into their schedule. They may be working certain hours of the day because they have certain child care obligations. They may have dropped out of the workforce. It also could be truck drivers. It could be freelance writers. Heck, it could even be like the press. But anyway, this Department of Labor has come in very heavy-handedly under acting Labor Secretary Sue's leadership to really put the screws to the enforcement mechanisms behind this. And this is going to be very punitive in the employment sector, and it's really going to hurt people who have tried to figure out the best way that they can earn a living, keep a family, and have a life that they would enjoy. So I would invite you to watch that hearing on Thursday. Senator Thune mentioned the hearing that we had this morning in appropriations again with Secretary Austin. Senator Moran asked him a question. I asked him a follow-up question, and he point blank said to me, we are withholding the weapons from the money that you as Congress passed because we are assessing the Israel's strategy when it comes to Rafah. I mean, plain and simple, he said that, in quick violation for the intent and the meaning of what Congress just passed, and it took us a while to get there, remember that, over the last 2 weeks. So I vehemently disagree with the administration's efforts in this region. We need to support Israel. We need support. We cannot tell them how and when and where to run their offensive because of the pressures that they have from that horrifying October 7th attack on them by terrorists. Thank you.
Yesterday morning, I left the beauty of Montana, Big Sky Country, and flew back to Washington, D.C., where I saw the ugliness of what's going on at the GW campus. What I saw yesterday was reprehensible. A statue of George Washington covered with stickers that say Free Palestine. He's carrying a Palestinian flag, also wrapped around his neck, and his head is covered and wrapped in a keffiyeh. There was a whiteboard there. By the way, this picture was taken by members of my team who accompanied me to the GU campus. There was a whiteboard that said, these are our rules. Number 1, in great big block letters, said, no Zionism. While I was there, I also met a rabbi. I met with Jewish students who also told me they were afraid to be on their campus. Let me be very clear. Anti-Semitism has no place in our country, but welcome to Joe Biden's world. And look what happened just last night. While most of us were asleep, protesters surrounded the president of GW's house and called for campus administrators to be beheaded. Then finally, this morning, Mayor Bowser mobilized Metro PD to clear the encampment at GW. But this is just one campus. There are still vile protests occurring across our country. Our nation is in desperate need of moral clarity. These elite universities, they promote diversity and inclusion as long as it includes hating Jews. Everybody has First Amendment rights to free speech, to protest, but they do not have the right to demonstrate such hate and violence that Jewish students feel unsafe. We must collectively condemn all forms of hate, wherever it shows up. And President Biden and Senate Democrats must join my colleagues, my Republican colleagues, in standing firm with the Jewish community, including looking at ways we remove the federal funding of these universities that don't act to protect these Jewish students.
Just following up on that a minute, I was at the Derby this weekend. I was with one of these university presidents, and he indicated that roughly 40% of the people creating these problems were not students there. Clearly, there's interference from outside, and this whole situation seems to me has been best dealt with by our former colleague Ben Sass, who had an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal in the last few days pointing out that they were not a children's display area. They clearly have rules and they enforce them.
Leader McConnell,
Okay.
thank you. Good afternoon. You've been outspoken about your disappointment in Congress being unable to advance some sort of an immigration border security package here. There are some Democrats, moderate Democrats, now saying the president should take executive action here. What would you like to see if he were to do that? Because you even have these moderate Democrats speaking out.
Well, obviously, I'm not an advisor to the president, but if I were, I'd say you ought to do something about this to the maximum extent of your ability. Obviously, the previous administration had more success controlling the border, and so there must be more this administration can do, not just blame Congress for not passing legislation.
Senator Patty Murray is insisting, reiterating that Democrats will want dollar-for-dollar parity on non-defense and defense. Can you accept that, given that you're seeking a substantial defense increase?
Yeah, no, I can't accept that at all. If you look at the request for defense from the administration, not a single one of their requests since they've been there has even kept up with inflation. In case anybody hadn't noticed, we have two major competitors, the Russians and the Chinese. We have the Iranians, and we have their proxies. This is the most dangerous time since the world and since the Berlin Wall came down, and the defense spending needs to reflect the needs of our country, which clearly argues against having an arbitrary line that doesn't spend more on defense than domestic. So I certainly do disagree with that, and we're going to have a vigorous discussion about it.
Mr. McConnell.
Yeah.
Given all the allegations that have come out against the former president in the criminal hush money trial, including covering up an alleged affair with Stormy Daniels, does it give you any pause in supporting him for president?
Look, I have said to you all, and basically to you every week, that I don't blame you for trying, but I'm not going to be commenting on the presidential election. I'm going to concentrate on trying to turn this job over to the next majority leader of the Senate.
That was a good one.